So a while ago, I made a video about Resident Evil 2. I talked about the original and the remake, and in that video, I had a little statement where I said that, in regards to originals versus remakes and people doing those kind of comparisons and deciding which is better, I said that both are different experiences and that the remake doesn't really replace the original, but more so complements it. And then I also said that the remake for Final Fantasy VII, what they've been doing the past few years, and what the original Final Fantasy VII, I said that it kind of can apply there. Now, for Resident Evil 2, I do think they both kind of stand in their own way. With Final Fantasy VII, I do prefer the original Final Fantasy VII to the remakes. I've loved the original Final Fantasy VII since I was a teenager. I've played it multiple times in my life. I've gone back to the original over and over again, and I will continue to do so, probably for the rest of my life. When they announced the remake, I kind of was cautious, but I gave it a shot. I played it back in 2020 on my PS4, and I really enjoyed it, but I did have my sort of criticisms. Also important to note that I only actually have fully played the first installment, the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Rebirth came out earlier last year. I actually started playing it, but unfortunately my Steam Deck nearly exploded trying to run it. I decided to hold off, and I'm waiting for the Switch 2 port, which is coming out in June, so I'll finally be able to experience that for the first time. So my takes here really only apply to the first installment, the Final Fantasy VII Remake. But Rebirth I did play. I think I played like a solid 12 hours, and I did scratch the surface of it a good bit. So, I had a good feel of it. Most of my takes here are about Remake. I do think it missed the mark quite a bit with some of the things in the original. I think one of the major things was just the general pacing of the story and just the game itself. They took Midgar, which was just sort of like the 5-hour intro of the original. And the thing is, as a 5-hour intro, it's action-packed, it's quick, and like you're getting pulled into everything and slowly introduced into what the game is about. And as that, it's really great. But when you blow it up to make it this 50-hour JRPG, it doesn't quite have the same flair to it. It definitely changes a lot. And there's moments throughout the game where they would try to like recreate moments that were in the originals and kind of just mimic a moment one-to-one. And the thing is, when they would try to recapture these moments, because they changed so much around those moments, the moments themselves aren't the same. Like I think about, like Sephiroth, like when you first see him, they try to recreate him kind of looking up in the flames and you see him for the first time, but like that happens like immediately in the game, which completely undercuts what that builds up to. Like there's things like that where they like capture the face value, but they miss the substance of it because they're trying to take liberties with it. There were things that they expanded on that didn't need to be expanded on. I think about that bodyguard outside of Don Corleone's mansion. In the original, he was just some guy that was there that you had to talk to get inside. And in this one, they gave him this whole backstory and this stuff that I remember sitting there just being like, I really don't care. And going from these like extra bits that they added in to kind of buff out the remake and kind of expand the world, so to speak, going from that and then like cutting back to the original source material of like what the story is, the jarring jump in quality was like really something to kind of go through as well. They made it into a sort of real-time combat system, and I'm always going to prefer turn-based. This isn't something that's new with the Final Fantasy VII remakes, but it's something that really started in like 15. You can even like trace it back to like Final Fantasy XII when they started experimenting with that. I'm always going to prefer the turn-based combat of the original. It's just different. And I just prefer that original turn-based combat feel. I'm always going to prefer turn-based combat. I love turn-based combat. Now, there were things I didn't like about it, but there were things that I really loved. If there was an art style in a game's world that deserved getting like a modern, fully blown, kind of expansion and a remastered treatment like they did, the world of Final Fantasy VII definitely deserved it. It's such a distinct feel. It's such a distinct aesthetic. I don't think you can really compare it to anything else. There's just a magic about it that's just unparalleled. And they really nailed the art style. They really kept the original feel of what like Midgar and just what Final Fantasy VII felt like, the industrial aesthetics of it, the more organic sides of it, that green tint on everything. They really kept that and they just expanded on it, and it's just a really beautiful thing to be able to experience. I think the atmosphere they nailed. I think the music, they got Nobuo Uematsu, the original composer for the original Final Fantasy VII and a lot of those older soundtracks. They got him back in to kind of help assist. And I think they did a really great job at keeping the sort of intimacy of those original songs. The voice acting, there were some moments where the acting was a bit shoddy, but I think All the voices sound like how they should. The voice actors that they got pretty much matched how I felt that they would sound. And the combat system is really satisfying. I do really enjoy the combat system. It's not turn-based, but they somehow kept the feel of like turn-based encounters. The materia system is there through and through as well. You know, that's been kept intact. That's still there. You know, it's still Final Fantasy VII at its core. The biggest problem was just the way that the game paced itself. And I get that they wanted to expand on the world. I don't know. Sometimes maybe sticking to the original would have been better in some instances. I do prefer the original. And maybe someday I'll make a fuller video on the original Final Fantasy VII, what it means to me, what it is. But I just wanted to make a quick little thing. I am a bit of a Final Fantasy fanboy, so I think no matter what is going on, I'm going to enjoy a Final Fantasy game, but I'm not toxic. I can acknowledge when something isn't good. So there's a lot wrong with the remakes that I don't like at all. I think the original is still the better Final Fantasy VII game. I don't think the remakes really compare, but I do still enjoy the remakes. Yeah, that's my 2 cents on the Final Fantasy VII remakes.